Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdist Dave. Today I'm hanging out with Draven Swiftbow from the same YouTube channel. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing good. Just a nice wintry cold day here in southern New Jersey. But on the plus side, like I get to hang out with you. so so for people that don't know who you are and what you do, can you give us the quick elevator pitch?
Yeah, basically, I'm just a small-time YouTuber. Do it for just a way to talk about games that I enjoy. Talk about different RPGs like D&D, different editions of D&D, Pathfinder, Starfinder, Alien, all kinds of different things.
There are links in the description, so go click away and follow Draven Swiftbow. You've also been doing a lot of reviews on different RPGs. Do you have a favorite from
Uh,
recent reviews?
well, the Alien one for sure. Like
Yeah.
that's one that I really enjoy. But they were the first R-rated movies I ever saw at an age when I was definitely way too young to watch them. But so I'm really enjoying that one. It's actually really well done too. Like it has little like things for anyone who's a fan of the source material. It has like just about any little obscure reference that you could think of. It has
Oh
like
yeah.
it has the wooden planet from the early draft of the Alien 3 movie where it was going to take place on this like temple planet with these monks and stuff like that. So it's got that. There's O'Bannon's World, like a nod to Dan O'Bannon, who wrote the original. So, really enjoying that. And I just recently did a review for Vasten, like the Nordic horror role playing game. And that one I'm actually really liking too, because it's more mystery based. It's more about uncovering secrets and things along those lines instead of just going in and fighting stuff. So I'm really liking that one too.
Yeah, Mike Gould says the history of D&D editions is well done too.
Oh, thank you. That was a long time ago, but I worked hard on those ones, so I do appreciate that.
Yeah, anything like that always requires a lot of research unless you have a really really good memory, and I do not.
I have a terrible memory, so it was a lot of research and multi-page scripts.
Yeah. What's a blue noser?
Someone from Nova Scotia.
Ah.
So the Blue Nose is a famous schooner that came from this province. So that's where the expression comes from.
So Mike Gould is a fellow blue noser, so just so you know.
Yeah, no, I know Mike. He's a good guy.
Yeah, well, he's also the lead designer on our Out of the Box Encounters, which he did an amazing job with.
Yeah, no, he's an awesome dude.
So, the Aliens RPG, I haven't had a chance to check that out yet. Uh, do you like it because of the IP, or they just did a really good job with the system?
It's both. I appreciate all the work for the IP that they did with it because it does actually it uses the official canon that
Yeah,
any movies and stuff going forward would use. But I also just like the mechanics, like the D6 pool system. It's simple but it works. The stress mechanic is awesome because it gives you chances to either succeed or go into a terrified panic. Um, and yeah, I think they did a good job with both. Like I really like the free league rule set.
yeah.
It's pretty good. It's pretty well done. But just having like the panic and all the other stuff in there as well. It's just really good system.
So, a really important question: are there predators in there?
Not yet.
I wonder if
Not
that's a
yet.
separate license or not.
Uh,
Uh,
Technically, I think it would be because the official canon doesn't involve the AVP stuff.
mhm.
But it would be really easy for them to do a supplement. And it'd be really easy just to have the Predator in there. I've actually honestly already considered running a scenario and just having it there.
Yeah. When do we get to play as predators? That's what I want to know.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Because I think it was you that's I don't know if it was you or someone else that mentioned that particular game, and it's like kind of when the aliens show up when you're playing it is like almost end game.
Yeah, with the kid there, they can be really deadly. So some of their attacks, if they do damage, automatically inflict a critical injury that is instant kill. So you can get like the head bite where like the inner mouth
Yeah.
comes out, or if you get attacked by a face hugger, you're done because
Yeah.
that's it, right? So it's deadly, but there's also a lot of chance to survive. Like getting reduced to 0 hit points isn't as bad in that game as it would be in like old school D&D, for example, because you can get an injury where, you know, it impedes you, but it doesn't kill you, sort of thing. So as long as you have someone there trained in medicine,
Yeah.
you know, you might be okay, unless you get head bitten or face hugged.
How long does it take before before dying from a face hug?
Technically, it's supposed to be right away because there's nothing they can do for you. But they have the way they track time is rounds, turns, and shifts.
Yeah.
So a round is 5 to 10 seconds, a turn is 5 to 10 minutes, and then a shift is 5 to 10 hours. So it's generally within a shift after the face hugger removes itself from you is when you go.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've watched any of those movies, but I'm pretty sure it was an instant death until it popped out of your chest.
No, it was there was a little bit of time in between, though it definitely changes with the movie.
Yeah.
Like Kane died within a couple of hours at most in Alien, and then you had the character in Alien Resurrection who was there for quite a while until he did like the chest burster through the guy's head.
Yeah, but I like the idea of really tormenting your players because they like if you know anything about aliens, you know if you got face hug, you know it's over.
Oh yeah,
and then giving them some time to kind of like run down the clock would be fun.
Oh yeah, well actually there is in the Destroyer of Worlds scenario, you're playing Colonial Marines, and one of them has actually been face hugged.
Yeah.
So it's just up to the person running the game to find the appropriate time to either, if they can get it removed, great. If not, find the most dramatic time possible to have the thing pop.
Nice.
So yeah, it's something you can definitely do.
So Free League right now, they're killing it on Kickstarter with One Ring second edition.
Yep. Yeah, which I'm really glad to see that. I haven't ever played a Lord of the Rings game, RPG, but that's one I kind of want to check out because I'm impressed with the stuff that they've done so far. They just released the starter set too for Cinabrin. I think that's horribly mispronounced, but it's their dark fantasy system. So
I think they just sent us a digital review copy.
Yeah, I just got one this morning. I haven't downloaded it yet, but I got the email this morning.
Yeah, me neither. Man, and you review a lot of games. That's a lot of work. I give you credit for that.
It's a lot of stuff to keep track of, and I'm not very good at it. So I'll find myself using terms from one game when running another.
Yeah.
So if I go to review something like Vaesen or Alien, I don't look at any other books the day that I'm doing that video. Because I don't script my videos anymore, so I try to make sure that that's the only thing rolling around in my head.
Yeah. How long does it take you to prep those videos?
A couple hours. I spend most of like the day of going over in my head what I want to say. Like I don't script it, but I try to have an idea of how I want to present it. And then there's usually 2 or 3 takes of the video itself.
Well, I meant more like absorbing the new rule set.
Oh, hours and hours.
Yeah.
With Alien, I had to actually watch some gameplay videos just sort of wrap my head around some of the things. And with Vaesen, I kind of had to do the same thing because they don't actually have hit points in Vaesen. Yeah. So I was like, how does that work? So I read it, but it didn't quite click. So I watched a couple of videos, but yeah, it'll take me probably 20, 30 hours of reading maybe to feel confident enough to do a video.
Yeah, we used to play with one guy that would run games for us, and it was amazing. We'd like take a rule set over a weekend and come back ready to run it, which always blew my mind at how fast he could absorb them. I feel like the older I get, the harder it is to absorb new rules, and and the idea of just sitting there and reading them and learning it that way, just like no thanks.
Yeah, generally, if I'm running games, that's why I kind of like the D20 system games, because I know the base mechanics enough that it's like, okay, well, we can start, and then a lot of times I'll just go until a rules question comes up, and that's how we learn how some of those aspects work. So that was my approach to Starfinder and Pathfinder 2e, basically.
You're currently our guru for Pathfinder 2e.
I do the best I can there. I don't know. I don't claim to be an expert, but I was at least running it consistently
Yeah,
before the pandemic hit. So
yeah. Which we're playing in a game together right now over on Master of the Games channel.
yeah,
Which I always have trouble remembering because he's been juiced to me for so many years.
yeah, yeah. That's an awesome group too. I love all the characters there, Crick and Scrim and Balthazar.
Yeah, I'm having fun with it. I do like how 2E Pathfinder does character creation, how with the the heritages and ancestries, and like it seems like from what I've seen, like my biggest complaint about Pathfinder in the past has been like all these microtransactions of decisions that never really mattered until you make like 4 or 5 of them, right? And even then, it's just like a number. I was like,
Yeah,
well, that's kind of boring.
yeah.
Um,
Like getting 1/3 of a bonus to a proficiency or things
yeah.
like that. Yeah,
But now it's more like like when you make these choices, like the rules change in a small but interesting way.
yeah.
Uh,
No, I agree. When I first went to run my first Pathfinder 2e game, I made the characters for the players. I just asked them basically, tell me what you want, because they didn't have the books yet,
yeah,
and it was an exercise for me to sort of get to know the character creation system. I had 2 players asked to play a sorcerer, and I had 1 person asked to play a wizard, and that's what they wanted. So I don't like to talk people out of characters that they want to play,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it was an interesting challenge because I wanted to see if because they're very normally like a wizard and sorcerer are very similar, right? And I wanted to see if I could actually make them feel different. And with Pathfinder, you have like the bloodlines for the sorcerer, so no 2 of those 3 characters were drawing from the same spell list. One was drawing from the occult list, one was from the
yeah.
primal list, and then the wizard was from the arcane. And they only had 2. I think 2 players had 1 spell in common, and that was
Oh,
it. So they actually they got to play their characters differently. They had different feels to them. One was like this fey creature. The other was a goblin that worshipped Cthulhu. Basically, he could make his arms stretch to like 15 feet to deliver touch attacks, and it was great. It was fun to actually see how different you could make the same class feel.
so one of the things we did early on was like someone brought like we had an intern for a while, Jake, and he brought the 2E rules to us and had us make characters. But there was like one book, and he was like reading the choices to us, and that didn't feel particularly great when we made like our first set of characters when we were done, especially because we looked at each choice by itself. So we're like, oh, that's cool. I'll take that. But then when you like piled it up together, like, oh, that did not make a very good character. Um, and but that being said, once I was able to go through and do it myself, and also I will say, like games like D&D and Pathfinder and Mutants and Masterminds benefit greatly from apps and digital support where you can build your characters that way. It makes it a lot easier to see everything and figure out your choices. So, what is it? Path Builder is
Path Builder, yeah, that's a good
yeah,
one.
which works really well for that. I would not recommend playing it without it, but that's just my opinion. It just makes it so much easier to build a character and
Oh yeah.
fast.
Well, everyone's so tech savvy. I'm not. I'm terrible with technology, so I
Yeah.
still have pencil and paper and character sheets in front of me. But I do have Pathfinder on my phone, and I have used it. And like it's so easy to use that because you know if you miss something, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it lets you know.
yeah, because I was playing a character in a different game, and I've realized I forgot one of my skill proficiencies. Like when I leveled up, I was supposed to gain an extra proficiency, and I didn't do it. So I had to go back and do that because I missed it. But with the app, it's a lot easier to know that you did that instead of playing 3 or 4 sessions.
Yeah, well, that and also you're not like flipping through a bunch of books, trying to figure out. I mean, it's not as bad, it's still early, but also it's Pathfinder and Paizo, so there will probably be a lot of books fairly quick.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
they support it pretty heavily.
yeah. So get to the point, and even if you're just using the same book, it seems like there's a lot of like flipping back and forth, and figuring out how this choice is going to affect this other thing. But once you get past that, it definitely feels like it smooths out and gets easier. And also, but like at the same time, it seems like a better way of defining your characters. What would have been race in the past, but now it's ancestry. Whereas like 5e D&D is still trying to figure that out, and they're struggling with how they're going to do it, especially going backwards.
Yeah. No, I love the ancestries and the heritages, and I think they did an awesome job with that. Just that level of customization is really, it's just really interesting too. Like I like the idea of choosing what your character has from their race or from their ancestry, as opposed to just getting a whole bunch of stuff sort of dumped on you.
Yeah.
Like, not every dwarf is going to be into stone cutting, so they might not have that
Heresy.
Well, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. I actually kind of like that, and you can still go back and gain newer abilities as you go. So if you find that dwarf maybe realizes how important knowing stone cutting is, they can always go back, and when they reach a certain level, they can just train and get that ability. Right, because you do gain ancestry feats as you progress.
So I'll jump in, grab a couple questions real quick. Mike wants to know, have you seen the Taking 20's opinion on 2E Pathfinder? I think we all have.
I saw the first one. I didn't see the follow-up video, but I did see the first one.
The follow-up about why he's not playing Pathfinder anymore.
Yeah.
I
didn't see that one.
I will say, like, that video sparks so many video responses. I haven't seen video responses on YouTube like that in forever.
Yeah, no. It was all over. Like, that was how I saw his video, was through the video responses, because there were just so many of them. Juice's one was actually the first one that I watched.
Yeah.
I feel like he was just sort of stuck with a group that treated it like a board game.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, those issues happen every game, right?
Yeah.
It's all about the players. Like, if you have players that are willing to try weird, crazy things, and a GM that says yes to them, then it doesn't really matter what you're playing.
Yeah. I mean, when you boil it down, like any fantasy or any RPG that's heavily combat based, you're going to have those dominant strategies.
Yeah.
Like, a thief character is always going to try to get their sneak attack, because that's how they're useful in combat, right? A wizard is always going to want to cast some sort of spell. So, you just have to accept some of those things. But I don't know. I mean, I hope he finds the system that works for what he wants, because there are stuff out there that I think might be better if he's looking for more of an interactive type of thing. Like the Star Wars games, where you have the complications and stuff that can come out of nowhere. Like, maybe that's something that might be more his thing. I don't know. But I always hate when someone feels like they have to run something if they're not enjoying it, right?
Oh, so no. There's so many games and so many.
Yeah, I hope he finds what he wants, but I don't agree with his take on Pathfinder 2e as the system.
I just want to say, on Crick's character sheet, nowhere is there the beehive attack, but it did not stop me from using it.
That's sadly.
Right. Let me tell you, I did a lot of damage to the party.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. You just have to find the right group. Some of my favorite sessions have been ones that have just been role playing, right? So
yeah.
For me, it's not about combat, and the current group we have over on Juice's channel is awesome. So I'm glad to be a part of it, even if I feel like I'm the least interesting person there.
No, not at all. And plus, how would we know any of the rules without you?
Oh, that's true, I guess.
No, actually, Dargate's been like the central point for a lot of things, whether he wants to be or not.
Yeah, I find that I fall into that role. Like, I'm used to being the perpetual DM, so when I get the rare chance to play, I always try to sort of shrink to the background, because I still want the other people to be center stage. So in a way, I'm kind of glad that the group didn't let me do that.
Yeah. I mean, that was the best thing, and I guess Colin started it. Or I don't know if Colin started it,
it was Bill.
It was Bill,
it.
yeah. And then like pushing you to the front and everyone trying to wingman you which then kind of like diminished Muriel's role. So so her character got so Paula's character got salty about that, and Durgan's like, I didn't do anything. I'm just standing here.
Yeah, in fact, I'm the one who blew the whistle on myself, and yet she
Yeah,
still, yeah. No, it's really
it's been
interesting.
fun.
Like I love the sort of the organic evolution of the group dynamics. Like um, even with my character, like just becoming legitimate friends with Balthazar.
Yeah, best
Um,
friends.
well, he says, yeah, but it just made like at first my character was trying to stay as far away from him as possible, but then I got to know him and see like he's someone who's just kind of lonely and feels like an outcast, and playing an orc, I think I would know how that would feel. So I
And
don't know.
he grows on you like mold.
Yeah, and he grows mold on himself too, so I
Yeah,
guess it all works out.
it creeps out from there.
Yeah, yeah.
So Doug wants to know game system preference, games with deep complex rules, games highly focused on combat, etc.
Right now, Pathfinder 2E is probably one of my favorite systems. I like the complexity to the rules, but it's not overbearing.
Yeah.
Like I've done some RPGs. I don't know if you ever heard of Harn.
What's it called?
Harn, Harn.
I feel like I've heard that name before, but I don't know what it
Yeah.
is.
I only tried it once. It's a great. It's the source books are awesome because it's like the definitive way to like build medieval towns or stuff like that. But it's such an in-depth rule system. Like
Mhm.
it's realistic in terms of how it presents things, but there's so much to it that I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm not a fan of realism. I feel like I get too much of that in my everyday life.
yeah, that's true too. And I love D&D 5e, but it's starting to feel too simple. Like I'd like to see a little bit more complexity from that rule set.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've only had two actual player source books come out in the nearly 7 years now. So we're probably not going to get too much in terms of that.
No, I feel like there's some missed opportunities. Like early on, I did an article about 5e, like when it very first came out, and talking about its modular blocky nature,
Mm,
which they expanded on in Theros
yeah,
with supernatural gifts, but that's it.
yeah.
They've and like I felt like there's so many missed opportunities. Like hit dice could be expanded upon. I mean, we did a supplement, heroics to hit dice, where we offer like other uses for your hit dice other than just healing.
Mm,
I feel like the inspiration mechanic, could be done more with, and also just like I feel like you could just pop more modules in, uh, to the character build and change it that way as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it was the exact system that they needed to release when they did.
Yeah.
Because there was the backlashes over the short lifespans of 3.5, and then the issues with fourth edition and reactions to that. So I think they put out the perfect system for 2014 to get people sort of back on side with them. But you're right. I mean, they definitely could have expanded out on that, and that was something that they initially said they were going to do, was sort of like release source books that would make the game feel more like an older edition, particular edition, if that's the style that you wanted to play. But they never really did that.
Yeah. Well, they're it's weird because they're so feedback driven, to the point like maybe too much so, right? Where like they're not going to give us any choices we didn't want before they knew we wanted them or not. So that
Right.
means like there's not really going to be any cool surprises, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah.
I had one of the designers on, and like everything was very, very data driven. If it doesn't hit the 70% mark, we don't explore it anymore. It gets shelved.
Yeah, I don't know if I particularly care for that or not. I mean, I was hoping for a really good psionic system out of fifth.
Yeah, I was
And
still waiting.
yeah, and with fifth, it would be super easy because the magic system now works like the psionic system did back in 3.5.
Yeah.
You have a base power, and then you can expend a higher amount of resources to get greater effect instead of it automatically scaling. So the framework is there. It wouldn't be that difficult, but then they gave us the psionic version or subclasses and tashes, and I just don't care for them. It feels like a bit of a cop out to have them just be part of a different class rather than making the scion its own class or the psychic warrior its own class and making those feel different.
I'm in the why not both camp.
Yeah, and there were psionic prestige classes for fighters and rogues and wizards and stuff like that back in the day. So they could easily, like the soul knife. I think the soul knife is perfect for a rogue. I don't think it needed to be its own class. I think in the past it was its own class, but it doesn't need to be its own class. But I think you need like a scion as their own standalone thing.
I agree. I mean, I actually really enjoyed the psionic system in third edition. I enjoyed psionic feats. Like I thought they were a really cool flavor to add to your characters.
Yeah.
And that, I definitely wouldn't mind seeing a bit more of that and an actual psionic class. Like, we're not gonna you're not gonna just take the wizard and the sorcerer and be like, oh, this is your scion now, and no one's gonna accept it either, right? Like,
here's a couple of new spells to add to your list, and just choose enchantments, and you're good, right? For everything else, so. I don't know. I mean, I guess, fifth edition, I think still has some life in it because they haven't released too much, really.
No, it's definitely been a slow burn.
Yeah. So,
and also, like, as much as it is my favorite version of D&D. Don't get me wrong, but like they didn't take any risks with this one. No. Like it was like they basically said, what were the safe places to play? What are all the things that people want to see? What things really stood out from each edition? And then they just kind of mashed it together.
Yeah.
And then like, the only innovation was advantage, disadvantage. I'm not sure if other systems were using that or not type of mechanic, but, and obviously inspiration, Benny's is nothing new. I mean, even D&D introduced them as action points back in third.
Eberron had action point or hero points. I think they were called hero points. They may have been called action points, but it's the similar terminology. But inspiration's good, but it's one of those systems I always forget exists.
We never use it the way it was intended to be used. And then I'll forget that we don't do it the right way, and then I'll go and play someone else's game, and I go to use it, and they're like, "You can't do that." Because in our game, it's just a reroll. Like if you have it, spend it whenever you want. We don't make them call it beforehand. Sometimes we care if they know they failed or passed or not. And so it's just like,
that's a really hard system to stick by though, because the players are going to figure stuff out eventually anyway, right? Like if you know that the DC of something is 17 because someone failed on a 16 and somebody else passed on a 17. And they got a 16, it's hard to say, well, technically that you failed, so you can't do that now. I've never stuck to that system. I don't go as far as to say, well, you failed, do you want to reroll? But I won't say, well, you failed, so you can't.
Yeah, like Doug in the chat, like when his games, here's the armor class, he just gives you the numbers anyway, which and some GMs do. It's like, and like he makes the point, it's like the players figure it out eventually anyway, right? When the 15 misses and the 17, and the 17 hits or the 16 hits, like they got the number, right? They're just gonna. We do that as players. It's part of the game, so.
Yeah, and I'm used to giving out armor classes from starting with second edition AD&D, and that was just the easiest way to make THAC0 work.
Yeah. So Mike wants to know: have you tried the 3D6 screen running games? I guess he's talking about the Age system.
Yes, I have, because I have the Dragon Age role-playing game. I actually got set 1, the box set, when it first came out, and set 2 when that box set came out, and then set 3 never really got a wide release, but I ended up getting the hardcover. That system is really interesting. Like I've run it a couple of times, and with the stunts, like I don't know if you know much about that system, but
I've played The Expanse, which is powered by the same system.
It's the same system, yeah. So like with the stun points, I found that anytime someone rolls, everyone's like glued to the table to see what they rolled in case they generate the stun points. So I find that system sort of keeps everyone engaged.
So I have a love-hate relationship with the stun points.
Okay.
So I think it's a cool system. For anyone who doesn't know, for the age system, you roll 3d6, add your stats and whatever modifiers you might have to that number, and then it's going to give you the target. But one of the dice has to be different than the other two because that's your stunt die. And if you roll doubles anywhere's on there, you then activate that stunt die, and however whatever that number is, that's your stunt points. And then, which is kind of cool. But then, depending on what you're doing, at least in the Expanse anyway, there's a general combat. There's melee combat. There's guns. There's all these
Okay.
different charts and tables.
Yeah.
Uh,
In Dragon Age, there's three. There's weapon combat, magic, and exploration.
oh yeah, that is so much. Dude, in Expanse they have one for everything. Like, what kind of exploration are you doing? There's several charts. What kind of social interactions are you doing? Several
Oof.
charts, and I'm just like,
Oh, that's out of control.
yeah, this like so generally like would have just like a go to that I was hoping to get enough points to do. So I would just use that. But then it's like you could look at two different charts and pick something from there. So I think it slows down the game, but that sounds like way better if it's only three. I guess that's an example of someone saying, "Hey, we got a good idea," and then they're
Let's run
like,
with it a little too far.
"Yeah."
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only age system game that I have is the Dragon Age one. I was considering Modern Age. I was actually considering the Expanse for a while, but I don't know if I want to do that now.
Well, it's a fun game. Like, for the most part, like that was my only complaint, and it's not even really a complaint. Like we played through it. I would definitely play again. It was fun. They handle weapon. I like the way they do weapons. It's it's like you're using a pistol or using a rifle, and there might be keywords that get added to it to make it do something a little bit different. But for the most part, they all do kind of the same thing.
Okay. Well, I might check it out. I don't know. I have a lot of stuff already on my plate, so
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah.
yeah, right. Always. So Mike Gould wants to know if you're familiar with the Titan's Grave science fantasy setting for age. Only because I've seen, like a video or two of Will Wheaton.
Yeah, was that the one where they had Chris Hardwick on playing a character that was making fun of Will Wheaton? Was that Titan's Grave?
I don't actually remember. I just remember they did
Or
it.
was Will? Oh, no, Will Wheaton was the game master.
He was the game master.
Right. Yeah, I watched like the first video in that series, and I think
Yeah.
that was it.
Same. I didn't like watch the whole thing. I remember like watching the one where they did the secrets about each other and what they know about the characters and stuff like that. And it looked kind of fun. It looked like a fun setting. The art was fun. But I didn't get very deep into it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it just comes down to like there's so many different games and systems and not enough time.
Yeah, no, I understand that fully.
Do you watch streams?
Not as much as I would like to. I just don't find I have a lot of time for it. But recently there was a channel that I watched for the Alien one, those Slices and Dices. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They're a smaller channel, but they did an awesome like live stream or like streamed game of that, and I really enjoyed watching them do that. Are
they YouTubers or Twitch streamers?
They're I think they're both, but I was watching it on YouTube because I don't watch Twitch.
I don't Twitch. Yeah. I don't blame you.
Yeah, it doesn't run very well on my computer, so I don't watch it.
Yeah.
And I love Acquisitions Incorporated, although I haven't been following them as much. I kind of miss the Chris Perkins days.
Yeah.
And with
who's the GM now?
Jeremy
Crawford. Did Jeremy Crawford take the reins, or is it...
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I'm horrible with names, so it's not. I know who, like, he's one of the big wigs with D&D. I think it's Jeremy. I think it's Jeremy Crawford. Yeah. I'm just bad with names. And Patrick Rothfuss is kind of gone now, so he was one of my favorite players to watch. So, but in general, I try to watch ones where the players are having fun and they're relaxed, and they're not afraid to do things that are funny. Like, I've tried watching some where the groups are like super serious, and I just can't get into those ones.
Yeah, I don't actually like watching streams for the most part. Stream
Yeah.
games. I don't have the, honestly, I don't have
I
the
mean, I
attention
want to be
span.
diplomatic because I'm on a couple, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't.
Well, yeah, but playing on them isn't the same as
Is watching them.
watching,
No.
right?
Yeah.
Like, so someone said to me when we kind of had this discussion, and they're a streamer, and they're like, you either consume content or you create content. It's very hard to do both.
Yeah.
And we're creators. We like to make stuff, and also I'm just like a hamster brain. Like some of my favorite creators, I don't watch because I think their videos are too long, and I'll make videos just as long, right?
Yeah, no, I'm guilty of stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
there's lots of great channels out there that I would love to watch, but a lot of times they cover the same stuff that I do.
yeah,
So I don't really want to watch their videos because I don't want their opinions to skew mine.
yeah.
Like
I'm
I
the
just
opposite. Like I don't care because I'll watch it and I'll be like, I watched this thing and I got an idea, and I just try and call it out, right? And
Oh
like,
yeah, no, and that's fair. But I mean, like, a while back when I was doing my history of D&D, when I was getting to the fourth edition ones, Pro Jared did his video talking about like in defense of fourth edition,
uh,
and I was like, oh, that's a video that I really want to watch. But I'm working on this stuff right now, so I had to wait like 2 months before I would
yeah,
watch it because I just like I always want the opinions that I express to be my own, even if they're not the greatest or most well thought out. So I always try to avoid stuff like that because I don't want to parrot somebody else, right? Even if it's inadvertent or like subconsciously. Which sucks because, like I said, there's a lot of great people out there that I'm subscribed to that it's like, oh, I really want to watch that video, but I want to cover something like that, so I'm going to wait, and then I forget and never go back.
no, I totally get that. Like we did a video on orcs, and like just like here's some like off the cuff ideas of different ways you could use them, and like we would just create a couple different scenarios, and like so I threw out the term like techno monger or something like that, and I'm like, I feel like I might be stealing this from someplace, guys. I don't actually know. Let me know
Yeah.
below if I am.
Yeah. And if you're the person I stole it from, I apologize.
Oops. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I was like just before we started, I was writing an article, um, and used the term Arcana Punk, and I'm like, I don't even know where we got that term from. If we made it up or we heard someone else say it, honestly, I don't think we're smart enough to make anything up. So I must have heard it someplace else. But things seep into my consciousness sometimes, and I just don't know where they came from.
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
So, what games are you playing nowadays? And are they all streamed, or some home games and some streamed?
Well, the summer home games, although they're done online because 2020 and 2021.
Yeah, yeah.
But so I'm in on Master of the Games channel. I'm doing the BECME, the old school D&D with Bill from Roll Stats. He's running us through Keep on the Borderlands,
Oh,
which
cool.
I've only ever played through once for like one session, and we encountered a Minotaur and we TPK'd. So
Yeah, nice.
so I missed a lot of the actual other stuff in that module. So that's been a lot of fun. And the Pathfinder game with you and Bill Allen and Colonomicon and Juice and Paula, like that one. I'm having a lot of fun with that as well. Like that's the kind of game, like just the way the players interact with one another. That's
Yeah,
the kind of game that I would watch, like
yeah.
as someone just watching a stream. But for home games, I'm running D&D 5th edition. So I'm actually going through Rime of the Frostmaiden right now. It started off as something else, so I had to bring the players over into the Forgotten Realms to make it work without it being a big hassle. So I just did that. And that one's going pretty fun so far. Like they just encountered the gnomish mind flayers
Yeah.
and helped them fix their crashed Nautilus. So that was kind of fun. And going through a Pathfinder 2e Age of Ashes game. I started off running it, and I'm going to start running it again. But one of the players actually offered to run the second chapter in the 6-part arc,
Okay.
so I get to play in that as well. I'm hoping to stream the Alien role-playing game over on Juice's channel once our Fall of Plaguestone game wraps up.
Oh, cool.
and I'm trying to learn how to do streaming stuff because I would love to stream more things so I can get use out of games like Call of Cthulhu, Star
It's just
Trek
easier to go
Adventures.
over on Juice's channel and make him do it.
Yeah, I'm bad at stuff like that anyway, so that's sort of my plan right now.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, it's working. He's offered to host it, so that way I don't have to worry about paying for Zoom or stuff like that.
Yeah. I think you can use somebody. You don't actually have to pay for Zoom as long as somebody has a paid account.
Yeah.
But it is a lot easier to have someone else run production while you're GMing than running the production and GMing at the same time. And then also you come up with things as like, oh, can my computer handle running OBS while running Zoom and anything else that I happen to be doing with it?
Yeah, the answer for that for me would be no.
Oh.
and I'm bad at tech. Like I'm horrible with technology, so I don't even want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to get too deep into that. So the things that I've seen people do is amazing, and I wouldn't be able to come anywhere near having that kind of production. So
yeah. Like you said, that game's been a lot of fun, and it's the first time that I've gotten to play with a lot of those players. I've played with Colin. He ran Monster of the Week for us on Juice's channel, as well as Bill Allen was in that game as well, and that was a lot of fun. And Bill is such a great role player.
Yeah, Bill is awesome. I was supposed to be in that one too, but they had a large number of people.
Oh yeah.
So I kind of bowed out of that, and I kind of regret it now. But it was just one of those things. It was just a rough time going on and a lot of anxiety. So I actually almost considered backing out of the Fall Plaguestone game too, because I just didn't know if I had the.
Well, I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah, I'm glad too. Thank you. And one of the, you like, even with the home games, I have Bill from Roll Stats. He's a player in it. And I live in Nova Scotia. He lives in Chicago. So even like when the pandemic ends, because before I was running all my games at a local game store, even when the pandemic ends, I'm going to keep the online games going.
Are you going to add some in-person games as well, or
I'll probably add one or two depending on how they set up tables and stuff like that when the time comes. But I've actually been really loving playing the online games because I get a chance to play games with people I never would before. Like I never would have gotten a chance to play a game with you, right? Right? Because
that's been the great thing about gaming online, and I mean we've been gaming online and streaming games since. I mean, soon after we started, right? Like, Juice started the One Shot group back in, I don't know if it was 2014 or 2015. And it was just like, I don't know if you kids remember Google Hangouts when Google Hangouts was a thing?
That's what I was using to run my home games for up until just a couple months ago.
Yeah. So we would just have like, no one was using VTTs, and it was just Google Hangouts, and they're playing all kinds of different games. With that group. So I mean, on our channel, there's still a bunch of them. So I mean, we've been playing online, for a while now. So once this stuff kind of happened, it was kind of like easy to transition. I feel like the gaming community has been positioned a lot better than many of the others. So
yeah, I think for sure, yeah.
But I mean, and also the pandemic may be a conspiracy between Zoom and the VTTs to increase their profits.
Well, I wouldn't put it past them because it's worked.
And the Girl Scouts, they've all come. Yeah, all the evil organizations have come together.
Yeah,
it's funny. I don't know if you're a fan of Justice League Unlimited. It was like one of the best DC shows you could watch, and in one of the episodes, the question is like putting all these things together on his string board, and Girl Scouts of America was one of the things on his string board. and my wife and a daughter have been involved with Girl Scouts forever now, so it is that was like one of my favorite moments. I like to remind them of the evil organization they belong to.
Yeah. It seems like they get called up in a lot of weird things, but I haven't watched the Justice League thing. We don't have. Is it on Netflix? I guess I should ask if it's on
Mm,
Canadian Netflix because that's what we have.
I wouldn't
Um,
know what's on Canadian
yeah,
Netflix.
I have no idea, but we haven't had cable for like a decade, so
Yeah, you
I
know
don't get
what?
to watch a lot of shows.
I have it on DVDs because it was actually one of the best things because the Justice League show was really good, and then they went to Justice League Unlimited, which was like it really didn't involve the seven as much anymore, and it was like all like my favorite episodes where they would do the D-listers, and they were like just the best stories.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that the DC shows were like miles above what the movies were. So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
It's like their animated division. It's like why don't you just let these people make your movies and you can make a good one?
yeah, that would be nice.
But no, they're not getting it. Doug says it's on HBO Max.
Okay, yeah, we don't have that either, but I
Yeah,
don't know, some to look for, I guess.
I had I had gotten HBO Max for a month. I'm gonna do it again, but I had gotten it for a month to watch Wonder Woman when it came out. And then like with HBO Max is actually not a bad deal because you get like a lot of bunch of different channels and DC was one of them.
Okay, they're the ones
Um,
getting the Snyder cut of the Justice League movie, aren't they? Is that
yeah,
HBO Max?
yeah, but that's not why I'm gonna re up when Godzilla versus King Kong comes out
Okay, yeah, that should be fun.
because that's what I want to see. I want to
Yeah.
use I want to see the big monkey wield the axe. That's what I'm here for.
That's a noble cause.
Yeah. And someone had to cast the enlarged spell on King Kong repeatedly to make this movie happen, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's definitely a scaling thing going on, but
Yeah.
it's giant monsters punching each other, so it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. I mean, I don't know, like when I was a kid, it was like Saturday mornings was like or Saturdays in general were like cartoons, and then you had they had wrestling and
Mhm.
kung fu theater and monster movie marathons. And it was like all the like Godzilla and Gamera and King Kong and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That's that takes me back.
Yeah. So the Kong versus Godzilla style movie is kind of like nostalgia.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So what's coming next from your channel? What are you working on nowadays?
So right now I'm wrapping up my series on the Alien role-playing game. So I did a series of videos going over some of the rules aspects, like creating a character, skill checks, combat. I want to wrap that up sort of with my final review. Just started getting into the Vaesen RPG, so there's that. I've got some Starfinder adventures that I have to look at, and some Pathfinder adventures, and there's other stuff. And Star Trek adventures, I want to start doing videos on that as well. So there's a lot of ideas. It's just a matter of if I have the time or mental energy to do it all.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to run out of stuff.
No,
But at the same time, because of the nature of what you're doing, it's a lot of work.
it's a
So,
lot. Yeah, it's a lot to try to keep everything straight.
do you have a release schedule?
I tried to have for a while I was trying to do like Mondays, Wednesdays, and possibly Fridays, but um, just with everything that's been going on, it's been sort of stressful to try to keep up that particular schedule. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm aiming for 2 videos a week, somewhere throughout the week. Like I had one come out this morning, and I'll try to have another one come out in the next couple of days. So I don't have a schedule as of yet. It's something I'm going to try to work on, but I just want my channel to be something I do as a hobby, as a way to talk about stuff that I'm interested in. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever it gets to start to feel like too much like an obligation or a job, for me at least, because I'm just one person, it gets to be a little too much. So try to stick to 2 videos a week, though.
Cool. What was today's video?
Today's video was my look at Vaesen, the Nordic horror fantasy, or the Nordic horror role playing game from Free League.
Okay, so if people want to know about Vaesen, you can go over there and check that out today.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. So what do you like about that game?
I like the mystery emphasis. Like it feels like it's more about role playing and puzzle solving. Like not puzzles as in you have 3 colored switches and you have to pull the
Yeah.
right one, right? But with like the creatures themselves, you can fight them, but you can rarely actually kill them. So it's more about figuring out how to banish them or how to get them to stop doing what they're doing, because they're not necessarily evil either. You know, they could be doing these horrible things because somebody wronged them or they destroyed their home, or so you have to sort of figure that out. I liken it to like The Witcher, because there are times where you can actually come across a monster and you find out that they're actually the ones being wronged, sort of thing. So you can sort of have stuff like that, but it's just an emphasis over cerebral gaming and not just hack and slash.
Gotcha.
Because I mean, I love hack and slash, but I've got enough of that already on the go. So
there's more nuance.
I think so. Yeah. At least it seems that way so far.
What's like one thing that game does to really facilitate that style of play?
So there's a few different things that I like about it. So each of the characters that you play they're flawed people. Like, they're not heroes by any stretch of the imagination. Each player has a deep, dark secret that they have to try to conceal. That the game master, like, it's not a mechanical thing, but the game master has to think of ways to implement their secrets so that they can either like own up to it or try to hide it. The mysteries around the creatures, so you can learn legends of how to stop them, but the legends aren't necessarily reliable.
Yeah.
So you have to problem solve stuff like that, and I mean, they call their scenarios mysteries. They don't call them adventures or anything like that. So it's just, I don't know. I just like that approach to it, I guess. I haven't been able to spend enough time with it to get like deep down mechanically as to what I like about it in terms of that, but just the overall presentation and the way that they present the creatures and how to deal with them is something that I'm really kind of attracted to.
Ooh. So Doug has a question. I don't know how much you've played that particular game yet, so I don't know if you'll be able to answer this question. Any challenges playing with D&D players, similar game players who feel compelled to fight first?
I haven't had that issue really. I mean, I haven't really run any of those games yet, but even just in other scenarios or other RPGs, I will say there were a couple of players in my in-person games that I was running that were problematic in that's how they would always try to tackle things. They would always try to ambush or get the drop or be the people to sort of start things. But with, like, I was running Call of Cthulhu for a while, and there were a lot of those same players, but not the particularly problematic ones. And they were all in on trying to figure out, like, you know, the fact that combat wasn't a big part of the game for them wasn't an issue. So I haven't had that happen yet. I'll say it's probably will at some point, but I haven't had it happen yet.
I feel like some of our personal home games would be terrible at any of those. They're just going to want to fight the monsters.
Oh yeah, no, I've played with groups in the past that if I was still with them today, they wouldn't be able to play a game like that. Like we tried running Call of Cthulhu back with the D20 system version of it, and that group was just not wired for it, so it didn't go very far.
No, you got to be like, here, read this stack of short stories and then come back and play this game.
Yeah, but they were all fans of Lovecraft too. That was the worst part. They were just so geared for jumping in and guns blazing type of thing that that's just how you had to.
Well, you know what I've encountered? There's a lot of fake fans of Lovecraft, right? Where like they're and I normally would not throw that term around, like, because if you're a fan of the thing, you can be a fan of the thing. Yeah. But in the sense of like they appreciate and like the Cthulhu mythos and the ideas, but they don't actually they've never actually read a single work from, you know, as H.P. Lovecraft or even some of the derivative stuff, right? Yeah. So like they're fans, but they don't really know anything about it because they haven't really absorbed any of the actual content. Like,
Cthulhu's kind of become a cultural icon too.
Yeah. It's like, well, they've got Cthulhu, you know, fun pops and plushies, so I guess they're fans, but that doesn't tell you anything about the mythos or the stories or how, like, because you start reading those stories and go, oh my god, like I read those stories and go, I don't want to play that role playing game, like. Everything's going to kill you, and at best you're going to go insane and gouge out your own eyes.
Well, yeah, you don't want to get too attached to your character.
You don't win. You don't win in a Cthulhu story.
Yeah, at best you'll stalemate, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like the best case scenario is you get to live in an apartment by yourself and you never leave it because you're paranoid for the rest of your life
yep.
until you die.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that's it. I still love running the game, and I'll do it any chance I get. But yeah, yeah. And I think I have a dozen or so collections of his stories. I must have everything he's ever written divided amongst them all somehow. But
do you have any particular tips for running those kind of games to try and get players to buy in, or either players buy in or they don't?
Yeah, I think with stuff like that, you have to really set the tone ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like let them know that this is a game about investigators going up against something that they're not prepared to face. You're not a hero. You're a person. But the players have to be wired in such a way that they can do that. Like that they can just want to experience the story and not so much, feel that they have to be the hero sort of thing, or expect that they're going to survive at the end, because sometimes it's about how going insane can affect you, and sometimes it's just fun to go through the sanity effects, and stuff like that. I mean, you have to be you have to be really into atmosphere, I think, to be able to enjoy that kind of system, either as a game master or as a player. So if you're more someone who just more likes to get from point A to point B and let the players, just ride the rails kind of thing, it's not going to be the best time.
Yeah.
And I think you have to understand the source material to really be able to convey that sense of impending dread sort of thing.
It's like, do you introduce like the total alpha character that smacks around the players for a little while in the beginning, where mechanically they just get defeated, and then later like introduce the Cthulhu monster that just rips through that guy like he was tissue paper?
Oh yeah, yeah. If you try to fight even like deep ones, they're sort of like the minimal sort of threat kind of thing, but even they are nasty. So
yeah. So I imagine like that's what I kind of think of too. Like when you were describing the Aliens game, and I've heard the Aliens game described as like the alien shows up and someone's gonna get like mouth punched through their head. And that's it.
Yeah. So with the Alien role playing game, they have cinematic style adventures, and then they have their campaign play. So campaign play is what you think of as like long-term storytelling with different scenarios that you go through with the same characters. So you don't really fight the aliens. Like there's something that they might be a background threat, or you may get references to them, but if you encounter them, it's at a climactic point in the story. With the cinematic scenarios, it's a matter of making sure you know how to give your character a good death scene when the time comes, because they're based off the movies, and the movies don't have a great survivability rate.
One character gets to survive, maybe two
until the next story, and then
yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, but if you have players that are okay with that, then I think you're going to be okay. And a lot of players are. It's just it's always like that 1% that's the problem, sort of thing, when it comes to running those types of games. Like the people that think that everything is like high fantasy.
And also too, like they're more okay if you tell them, right?
Yeah.
If you spring it upon them, most people are not going to be okay.
Oh yeah, no, you need to make the expectations very clear.
And I mean, there are several games now out there that basically it is about dying.
Yep.
What is it? Dawn Command, Phoenix Dawn Command. It's another RPG by Keith Baker.
Okay.
And I can remember all the words, but not the
order they come in.
Yeah, but like that whole game, the only way to level up is for your character to die. After you die 7 times, you're done.
Okay. I mean, I think I've noticed with some people, they actually really enjoy the systems, like when they play D&D, especially if they started with like 5e, where it's much more difficult for character death to be a thing. I've had people that really sort of appreciated how scary some of these other systems are rules wise, and how they have to be very careful about what they do with their characters if they want them to make it to the next scene.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So some people are just naturally drawn to stuff like that, and some people just aren't.
Oh yeah, Doug. So it's Phoenix Dawn Command. Thanks, Doug.
Oh yeah.
It's good to have a helper brain on call there. And also 10 Candles is another game like that. I couldn't think of it, but that's the other game when you get to like the whole thing is getting to the end when you all die.
Oh, okay.
And that's really interesting because you start off with this dice pool of 10 dice. And 10 candles, and every time a candle goes out, you lose one of the dice, and the GM gets to die, right?
Right.
And
I think Colin was talking about that one, wasn't
he? He might have been. We had the designer on, and he was talking about it. But it's like, and then when the GM gets to die from you, he rolls against you, or they roll against you, and then so they can take away your successes. So as the game progresses, like your chances of succeeding just go down, down, and down until finally, you're out of candles and you're out of dice, right? And everyone dies.
Is that the system where it doesn't matter what causes the candle to go out, it still counts? Like,
like it goes out by accident, it goes out as well.
Yeah.
The question I had to ask when we had the designer on was like, so has anyone accidentally burned down their house playing your game yet? I can think of some of the role players and gamers I've had at my house playing games, and they're not all the most careful people.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So we're up on the hour mark. Final thoughts before we head on out?
Well, I just want to thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. It's always nice to talk to you. I don't get a chance to do it too often, but I've always enjoyed it. So just thanks for putting up with me for an hour.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. It's been great chatting. Until next time, everyone, stay nerdy.